Okay, so sometimes I've experienced it. I feel like you've experienced it. We've all had the same human experience in this where you just don't really feel like doing anything, but when you do something, you don't want to be there. I feel like that's a case called boredom. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about boredom, um, what it stems from, and how we can grow out of it. Of course, from the Christian perspective, because I am a Christian. My name is J.K. Graham, and this is my channel. And this is coming from one of the things which I struggled with over the past couple of months, which was boredom. I didn't really feel like doing anything, so I decided to literally stick my head. You know, people say they stick their head in books. I decided to stick my head into my laptop or into my phone, anything besides growing and just receiving the instant gratification that I felt like I wanted. So that's really what I did. But that led to absolutely no growth and no skill, no communication, none of that stuff that actually would lead me to anything positive. But so, what is boredom? Boredom comes not only from doing nothing, but trying to fill that something with nothing, or doing something to fill that nothing. You can be bored doing something at the same time you can be bored doing absolutely nothing. And that's my definition, but the actual definition is the state of being weary and restless through lack of interest. That is what boredom is. Being weary and restless through lack of interest. You don't feel like doing anything. You're not interested in doing anything, but you're annoyed. You're not at peace with it. You're annoyed. And these are the thoughts on boredom. Of course, I did my homework on this. This isn't my own thoughts. These are thoughts due to research and all that good stuff. But thoughts on boredom. Running away from boredom and becoming a busybody rids yourself from the free time that you had. Some people like to call it fear of missing out. People have this sense of fear of missing out because they feel like they're going to miss out. It's pretty self-explanatory in the sense of the definition, but people, they will do anything to not do nothing. They don't want to get caught doing nothing because it's lame. It's lame to do absolutely nothing. As well as it's lame to do absolutely nothing, it's people who do absolutely nothing and then they waste time. Both of these are time wasters. People complain all the time that they have no time to do anything. They complain that, oh man, there's not enough 24 hours in the day. Or I'm a college student. People complain that they didn't have time to get their homework done. Or they didn't have time to, I don't even know, eat or something. People are very stricklers with their time, but they don't choose to use their time wisely. They choose to indulge it on their own fleshly things, as if going to parties or all this other stuff, literally hanging out with other people rather than doing their own homework. They would rather be with somebody else than alone trying to better themselves. You can better yourself with somebody else, but 9 times out of 10, when they're running away from something, they don't want to indulge in it. Now, some tasks may be inherently boring in the moment or may seem that way in the beginning, but as you get into it, it fulfills the saturation that you are missing. And I would like to say that with just being honest here, reading the Bible. 9 times out of 10, when I get into the Word, or not 9 times out of 10, most of the time when I get into the Word, I have to and it's getting better, but I have to drag myself into it. I have to take myself off my bed and throw myself onto the desk just to get into the Word. Once I'm in there, I'm engaged, I'm fully into it. And that usually be the beginning of the morning thing. But as I'm growing more into the Word, it's beginning to get more and more interesting and more fulfilling. And you can literally never fill up on the Word because you get new revelation. Because the Holy Spirit can give you new revelation every single time that you read it. And there is this thing called escapism when you're bored. Escapism is the practice of seeking distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by engaging in entertainment or engaging in fantasy. Now, there's two things. There is a healthy escapism and there is an unhealthy escapism. An unhealthy escapism has things like addictive behaviors such as drugs, overeating, obsession, over digital media, and it masks underlying health issues. Most of the time when people overeat, it tends to be because they're just bored. I don't know. I really don't know. But most of the time when people tend to do things, it gets worse and worse over time. And I like to say that 9 times out of 10, whatever you're doing, you're going to want to get better at it. Nobody ever wants to get better. Nobody never wants to not get better at doing something. And there's a video I was watching of a man on boredom, and he was like, the greatest way to combat boredom is to keep getting better at stuff, and it'll just keep on increasing and you'll never experience boredom. And I like that. And it also goes to say with the same thing with addictions. And addictions and boredom are right next to each other. When you're bored, you decide to do something. So then you do it and it becomes an unhealthy habit. And when you develop that unhealthy habit with that boredom, the addiction continues to grow because what you've been fed on, now your belly gets bigger and you need to be fed on even more. For the example, you could say drugs. You could see people on the street, or we'll just say alcohol. You could see somebody, they're just starting out on alcohol. They get one shot. 21, just turned 21 years old. And they get on alcohol. And they take one shot and like, that's it. But like, they're succumb to the feeling of alcohol, being alcoholic. I mean, being drunk, and now they want to feel that drunk feeling again. Or you just say that weed feeling again. And then they start to do it more frequently, and it becomes an addiction. And then that addiction grows, and it grows to be more than that, or what you eat and all that other stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But those are those unhealthy escapisms that I'm talking about. To combat those, we have such thing as healthy escapisms. Now, healthy escapisms are meant to relax and rejuvenate you. Relax and rejuvenate you. Such things as exercise, meditation, biblical meditation, and engaging in hobbies that promote skill development. Hobbies are great. I love hobbies. I have my own hobbies. There are a lot of things that I love to do outside of being in my room. But there are a lot of hobbies that I do inside my room. And most of these hobbies are really engaging, and they develop my skills to make me more proficient. And moving on, from a philosophical perspective of boredom, Arthur Schopenhauer has this view that he supports. This view is the take of religiosity among boredom, and it affects how often people are bored. And so it says that the more you are inclined to your religious perspective while performing a boring task, reported less boredom than the people who are less religious. People performing the meaningless task had to search for less meaning. But what does that mean? Those of higher religious beliefs had less boredom. Why? The mundane feelings than the less equipped person. They had less mundane feelings than the person who were less religious. They knew less. They studied less. They didn't want to know. But they were bored. They were more bored. More bored. So it's because of the meaning of the task that gets rid of, or it lessens the meaning of boredom. One must ask themselves why when doing something. 9 times out of 10, people are naturally inclined to curiosity. So people come from all over the place curious as to what's going on here, what's going on there. And I'm one of those people that like to ask the question, why? That's a philosophical question right there. Why? Why, as a religious person, are you bored more often? Why are you bored in the things that you're doing? What are you doing these things for? Are you bored when you're praying? Why are you praying? Are you bored when you're studying? Why are you studying? Are you bored when you're worshiping? Why are you worshiping? There has to be a understanding sometimes of why you're doing something instead of just doing it because that's the way you grew up. Some people have decided to, for me personally, I've decided I was in the church for 18, 19 years before I even realized what I was doing and why I was doing it. It's not bad to question yourself as to why you're doing things. It helps for more of an understanding, and when you understand more, you become more joyous. Nobody likes doing something without understanding. Let's say that you're cooking something and somebody gives you all the ingredients and they say, cook me a lasagna. And you're like, what are the steps? And they just, what? But when you're praying to God, somebody says, pray. And they're like, how? Just pray. There is a certain way to go about doing things, and studying and understanding these things allow for so much more of a perspective and allows you to become more joyous while you're doing these things and allows you to get rid of that mundane feeling. Even if you're at work, getting rid of that mundane feeling feels so great. And the common man exudes the reasoning that without God of an absolute, human morals and ethics exist. This is not so. They say that there's no morals. I create my own morals so that I'm not bored that way. It's called subjectivism. Subjectivism is the phrase that comes when you enter into a own morality standpoint, as if it was right for my eyes to see something as moral, but you see it as unmoral. But let me not get off topic. When I was studying, I have a big old John MacArthur commentary. Big old John MacArthur commentary. Rest in peace. I was looking at it. It was like the vanities of Ecclesiastes, and this is absolutely crazy, because in Ecclesiastes you have Solomon, who is a very wise guy. He asked for wisdom from the Lord. And he says in the beginning of Ecclesiastes, vanity of vanities, all is vanities, vanity of vanities. That's absolutely crazy for a wise man to say that all is vanity. So if all is vanity, is what's good. And as throughout we go through Ecclesiastes, he talks about the things and what the vanities are. And so I'm going to name them. There's 10. You have human wisdom, human effort, human achievement, human life, human rivalry, human self-sacrifice, human power, human greed, human accumulation, and human religion. So what's the point of doing anything if it's all vanity? We gonna find out. It's explained further down in Ecclesiastes in chapter 12. To proclaim God's truth. You have your wisdom, but you realize if you don't use it, it's vanity. Your human wisdom is vanity. The wisdom that you get from the Lord is not vanity. I didn't see any Lord's wisdom vanity in that list. I didn't say any of that. So to proclaim God's truth would be God's wisdom. Becomes your knowledge. Because it's from God. The conclusion of the whole matter, as he says, after saying vanity of vanities once more, is to fear God and keep his commandments, to honor God, to respect God, to obey God, and you will begin to understand purpose. A quote here says that from that to this, should be every man's pilgrimage in this world. We begin at vanity and never know perfectly that we are vain till we come to fear God and keep his commandments. We're empty, vain meaning empty. We're empty until we come to know God and keep his commandments. What is this without God? What is life without God? It's vain and it's vanity. Something that people don't realize, I feel as if people don't realize oftentimes, or they don't really see the gravity of it, is that you will be held responsible for your actions. The false premise of the book guides you through life of vanity, of the book of Ecclesiastes. It guides you through life of vanity into God's existence and judgment upon all. Yes, believers will get judged upon their past saving life. They will not be the one paying for their sins. Jesus already paid for our sins. That is the gospel story, the good news. Jesus paid for your sins, so that way you do not have to pay the wages. The wages are death. You do not have to pay that. But the new life that you have been given will and is seen by God. Work joyously for the Lord, and he will equip you as that is his will. And what does that have to do with boredom? You work joyously in the acts of your boredom, and you will experience the life of God. I mean, you will experience the life that God has for you, as that is his will for you. When you're in your job, when you're at your job, what is it that you can be doing to be seen as someone that is a Christian or someone that is a follower of Christ? How can God be seen in you? There's this, I was on YouTube Reels, or I think this was a YouTube video, and there was this woman, and she said, I'm gonna botch it, but she said, if someone says, oh, I didn't know you were a Christian, and then she said, well, maybe God thought that too. That would be absolutely crazy. I would absolutely cry and break down if someone told me, I didn't know you were a Christian. You don't look like it, or you don't act like it. That doesn't break my heart because someone misguided me. It breaks my heart because I didn't show that to them. I didn't show them the love of God. I didn't show them the adoration that God has. I didn't proclaim to them the gospel, the good news in my life, and explain it to them how God changes lives because he loves you and he will become your father when you are adopted into his family. But simple takeaways. There's 3 takeaways. Number 1 is to stop the routine of unhealthy escapism and kill those addictions. Get rid of that phone addiction. If you can't handle to get rid of it for all day, then manage your time wisely. Just block out a certain time for God. Make time for God. Definitely make time for God. But I meant to say is block out a certain time to put on your phone that you can only use a certain app for this amount of time, or you only use a certain app for this part of the day, or even just get rid of them altogether if it's too much for you. You do not need to be on the phone all day, scrolling through TikTok, doom scrolling, all that other stuff. You do not need to be doing that all day. Even YouTube Reels, watching YouTubes all day. There are things that you can be doing to make yourself better through God. Number 2, develop healthy hobbies that are fun and can grow as you grow. The healthy hobbies that can grow as you grow. One healthy hobby I would like to say is reading. People love to read. You can become one of those book readers. I believe in you. The best way to start is to start at the bottom with a level 1 book read. Might have a couple words in there, but you begin to experience joy when you learn stuff. As if math. You don't like math. Not because you don't like math, it's because you can't do it. Once stuff gets too hard, people don't like to do it anymore. You develop those skills and understand those skills of math, and it begins to become even more enjoying. As for me, I don't like math, and I'm not doing any more math classes for the rest of my life, as long as I know. But there are things that I enjoy doing. My hobbies, such as skateboarding, I can always get better at skateboarding. I can always go across and proclaim the gospel to other skateboarders. Hiking, I could do the same thing there when I'm hiking. Thrift shopping, same thing. Whatever you do it all unto the glory of God. That is a verse in 1 Corinthians, I think. Don't quote me on that. And the last thing, to never depend on motivation to get you out of a rut. Discipline in the spirit overcomes the flesh that you have so willingly decided to feed. Motivation isn't always going to help you. Sometimes it might help you, but do not depend on your motivation. Motivation depends on your feelings. Do not depend upon the feelings of God. Hold on. Do not depend upon the feelings of yourself. Move not on the feelings, but move on the will of God. That's what I'm going to say. Move not on feelings, but on the will of God. Goodness. Discipline is so much more important. To discipline yourself to mean that you have to move mentally and move physically. Some people move mentally so good, but more people, if you move physically, you gonna move mentally too. Or the other way around. They're interchangeable. Sometimes you won't feel like getting up. Sometimes you won't feel like thinking about anything. But waking up early in the morning, getting in the Word before anybody else can even have the chance to talk to you, starting your day off right, you'll see the changes, and it'll be great for your life and for your relationship with God. Starting your day in prayer, in relationship prayer, through God. And that's what my pastor talked about as well. A relational prayer. It was amazing. It was amazing sermon. A relational prayer that led to a relationship with God. And I've done that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't even get the chance to ask for stuff when you start to develop a relationship. Well, not that you don't get the chance, but I don't even get to the point of asking for things anymore. It's as if the things that I'm talking about, he knows. And Jesus, my prayer partner, intercedes upon my behalf. But let me not get off track. So that's it for me and boredom. And I feel as if I've covered a great deal of topics. And if you have any questions, please comment down below. I would love to answer questions. And yeah, that's it.